player haters, gets turned to haters. I'll just let you start talking.
There are hate crimes committed once every 4 seconds in this industry.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Listen, I saw you on Howard Stern last night.
You did?
Fucking fantastic.
I didn't see it. You're the fourth person who told me.
If you ever need a tape, I'm sure you can get a tape.
They got me a tape,
Okay.
but it was a spur of the moment thing because it was the Blockbuster Awards, and he was taping his show there. And I'm very intrigued by Howard Stern because it's a cultural phenomenon, and just amazing to me when people go on the show and kind of the abuse that they take. It's very almost masochistic.
And it's also, I think, when he smells blood or he senses a weakness, he'll go for it. Whereas you were like,
Well, you know what? Maybe he didn't expect that from me, but I don't know. He's pretty cool. He's interesting, and nobody wanted me to go do it. I mean, it's just if it happened.
You were saying, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you were saying years ago. You're saying to him, nobody wanted me to do cool stuff like this years ago.
Well, I think I would have been afraid a while ago to do it because you wouldn't know what to expect. And when you go to his studio, they follow you with the camera. Right. Do they do that? Do they show me like walking around?
Yeah, they showed a bit of that, and then made fun of your entourage.
Oh, I know. What do they say? Like, she has Africa with her. What the hell is that comment?
Yeah, like talking about
He's funny, but no, it was cool because I got to do it in a different kind of setting. Just being at the Blockbuster Awards, and we never.
In other words, you could escape.
Exactly.
In the studio, you're like.
Yeah. So, but it was cool. But I got to see a tape of it.
Well, you must explain. Is this a Gucci thing?
Yeah, and it's ridiculously heavy. Feel this.
You got a bowling ball in it.
It is like a bowling ball bag. It looks like, remember in the Flintstones when Fred and Barney used to have those bags? But I just have so much crap in here that needn't be in here.
Well, you must explain, right, for people in England.
Yes.
About Long Island.
Long Island?
Long Island.
What do you want to know about it?
Did you ever read a piece in the New York Times? Fantastic, huge piece about Long Island, about everything in Long Island, from Howard Stern to Amy Fisher to Seinfeld. The most epic piece you've ever read.
No.
By Ron Rosenbaum.
No.
I'll get somebody's email or something and send it to you. It's amazing.
Really?
But anyway, can you explain what Long Island means to you and where Howard Stern fits in?
Well, I guess Howard Stern is kind of to the masses. He's probably a Long Island hero. And I guess it's because Long Islanders have this common bond. And there's this sort of universal humor that exists only on Long Island.
How would you describe that?
It's a very specific, well, now it's kind of more, it's more fragmented. But I mean, there are certain types of things, like this okay, this lady that I grew up, she talks like this. My friend's mother, she talks like this. She's from Queens, she migrated to Long Island, right? So, you'd be sitting there, she'd have me like, all right, we'd be 12, 13 years old, right? Of course, I had insomnia even then. The rest of the girls would all be asleep, and I'd be up, and she'd be drinking. She'd be sitting there talking to me like, yeah, I could have been a roller derby queen. But freaking ingrates, my daughters, don't even care. Because I looked like Natalie Wood when I was growing up. And I'm from Queens, so nobody fucks with me. And she would just like go on and on.
Oh my God.
And she would go on and how she was like, but it was really funny because she was just a classic, like she was a classic Long Island mom. But she was great. I mean, like.
But in what way? Because she was like hard ass?
Well, I mean, I don't want to come off like I'm dissing that place. It's just it's kind of like Jersey. You know how Jersey people have their own, like, I was watching the Saturday Night Live skit the other night, they're like, Jersey! And how Bruce is like the hero of Jersey. Bruce Springsteen's the hero of Jersey. Bon Jovi's the hero of Jersey.
I guess you have Billy Joel.
Billy Joel, yeah. When I was growing up, everybody was like, I know Billy Joel. I knew Billy Joel. I went to his house. It was like everybody was Billy Joel's cousin or Debbie Gibson's cousin.
Right.
And it was like, come on, not everybody is related to
Maybe
Debbie.
now everyone's your cousin.
Yeah, I know, and that's what started happening to me when I was like, what? And they'd be like, yeah, my brother went to the prom with her. Yeah, my brother went out with her. My cousin's, two brothers went out with her. She was like this, she was like that. And people will just lie. And because they're from Long Island, well, there's different areas. There's more like, the ghetto side, and there's more like the middle class, suburban, typical Long Island.
And what was your side?
I lived in all of them.
Oh, right. Okay, I heard you moved 10 times.
Yeah, I lived everywhere from Amityville, which is pretty much like more of a... There are different places in Amityville that are more upscale, but there's pretty much of like a very hoodish element
Right.
to certain parts in Amityville. I lived in Locust Valley. Well, my mom used to live with this guy who was a gardener, and he lived on an estate as the gardener, the caretaker, so we lived in Locust Valley, which is like this very affluent neighborhood with all mansions, and we lived like in the caretaker's house of his place.
So you got to see how the other half lived, as it were?
Yeah. Nice.
Well, do you still think when you're like around now, is it present in your mind that at one time, like not so long ago, well, whatever, 10 years ago, that you didn't have very much? Because you seem very driven. I mean, not that I know I've observed you, but just reading, you're on the phone all the time, you're doing videos, you're doing this, tours, doing that.
I'm very driven at this point because I feel like if I don't handle things myself, they won't be done the way I want them to be done. And I see examples of that happening all the time. So,
you mean other singers where their management or someone else is taking decisions? And
not necessarily other singers, but in my own life. Like things it's hard because I write and produce, right? Nobody can answer a question for me. Like, okay, we're doing this mix. Does she want the vocals louder at this point or not? Does she want to bring them down? Does she want this blend of background vocals? What does she want? Like, my executive assistant can't answer that question for me because it's not her thing. Do you know what I mean? She could probably say she won't like that picture, or this is her favorite bag, or we will stay at this hotel. But no one can answer the creative things that are my decisions. And then I get caught up in, I don't know, there just seems to be so much fragmentation of stuff that goes on with the label, and I don't know.
And so you have to keep it together.
I try. I have a lot of people working for me and whatever.
Well, tell me this, when you're in the studio, one kind of half-baked idea I had about your stuff, your music, is that there's this kind of, I don't know, whatever, dichotomy or duality or whatever, between, and it's almost like a New York, Long Island thing, like an urban, suburban thing. Because on some tracks, like, you've got fairly soft drum sounds and stuff, but on some, remixes and stuff, you've got harder sounds, you've got ODB kicking in, you've got all that. I mean, is that present in your mind, that you've got this one side and this other side?
Well, I also moved to Manhattan when I was 17.
Ah, right.
And I was a backup singer for Brenda K. Starr, who was like singing in clubs and stuff like that. So I was like basically on my own in the city, living with 4 girls on a mattress, in a space this small. So like I experienced that too.
Was that a wild life back then?
I was working then just as hard as I'm working now, and everybody else was hanging out having fun. And I was like this kid that nobody I was a backup singer, and then I met different musicians. That's how I got the Brenda K. Starr through these musicians who met me as this. See, it all started with my brother. My brother used to be a trainer for different singers and stuff like that.
Physical.
Yeah, and then before that, he was a bouncer at different clubs, at hot clubs, whatever. So he just was a network. He was a model. He used to network with a lot of people. So everybody knew Morgan. It was like Morgan. Oh, Morgan's little sister. Morgan's little sister. That's what I was. And so, I met different people, and then people started to hear me sing, and they would be like, wow, she can really sing, and take me seriously. And so I started getting session work, and then I started singing for Brenda. But I would be around people that were like 25, 26 when I was like 17, and they were like, why do you work so hard? How are you coming home at like 4 in the morning? They'd be all high, drunk, and I'd be coming home from the studio, or I'd get home even at 7 in the morning. They'd just all still be hanging out, whatever. They'd be like, why do you work so hard? And I was like, because when I'm your age, I want to be already established and successful. You know what I mean? And I've been very driven because I felt like, sort of unstable in my childhood.
Private life?
Childhood. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, I read that you had a fairly rough time as a kid.
I mean, look, I'm sure, yes, I feel I went through a lot of things, but I feel like it's being on a soapbox to dwell on it. And I feel like, I'm sure there are people... Did you read the book Push by Sapphire?
I did not. I mean, I'm aware of who she is and everything else.
When I read that book, I said, you know what? My life was not that bad. I mean, there are people who go through hell and never come out.
Right.
You know, at least, I mean, I experienced a lot of things that were damaging.
Springles.
I think that's
Right.
Can I get you anything else?
Thank you.
Want some water?
How about like some soy sauce? Do you have that? Kind of
Soy
soy
sauce?
sauce or something?
I think so.
What
but
kind of sauce do you usually cook with this?
Try that.
That's a hoisin sauce.
Is it like?
Hoisin's Japanese. It's like a plum sauce. It's sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you bring us a spare one of them?
Of course.
I'll just use a tad.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, you're not going to get full up, are you now? You're not going to get all bloated on that.
Nah.
That's fine, thanks for
Okay.
Don't forget, I'm saving myself for change.
All right.
But you know, and it wasn't my mom. My mother was very supportive of me. It was just like circumstances.
Right.
And I don't dwell on it because it's over. And whatever I went through made me a stronger and better person. I think that the suburban thing made me feel like more of an outcast and an outsider because that's everybody in the Long Island thing, you know, is expected to be perfect and normal and fit in and be exactly like everybody else, which I wasn't.
Right.
Because being multiracial, number one, is a thing that sets you apart from almost everybody else.
Right.
You know?
Does when was it you started listening to hip hop? Because there was a
5th grade.
Oh, wow.
Rapper's Delight.
As Ice Cube says, you're not new to this, you're true to this.
5th grade, we would listen to Rapper's Delight over and over and over until we learned every word.
Right.
But you know, I mean, when you're in like Long Island is not like living in like the country. I mean,
Right.
It's
Well, I've been there.
yeah, I mean, it's basically like the closest thing to growing up in Queens or Brooklyn or something, depending on what area you live in.
Right.
You know, so don't forget, I lived in a lot of different areas. So, you know, they started, the New York radio stations are played in Long Island too.
Right.
So you have
Do you listen to BLS?
BLS, KISS, there used to be a station when I was little called, well now it's KTU again, but then it was KTU, it was like more disco-y.
Right.
You know? And so I was very influenced by like all the songs that are being resampled and reused today. This is how the Tom Tom Club idea came about.
Oh, right. And what were you listening to today in the studio? I know some Notorious and some. What else did you have on? Because I wasn't there all day.
I was listening to Hot 97 all day.
Oh, was just radio?
I was listening to Hot 97 and then I was listening to Biggie's album.
All right. Now,
After Death.
what made you want to get ODB involved?
Because I was a big Wu-Tang fan and I loved ODB because I felt like his character within the group, you know how there are so many, it's like all the different diverse
Superheroes.
Right. I just felt like, but at that point it wasn't even full-blown superheroes like now. It was more like you really just picked out, I could really just hear his vibe and his flavor from just Cream and all the songs that he was really dominant on. And then when he put out his solo album, you know, and I really loved Brooklyn Zoo. What's the other song that's my favorite song by him?
That Baby I Like It Raw.
Yes.
Right.
Like just all those records was so hot, and I was like, he is so unique. If I did a record with him, I knew I was using the Tom Tom Club loop, and I was like, if I could get him on the remix, that would be the most incredible thing.
Well, here's the funny thing. I read in again some interview somewhere where you said that not everybody, you know, some people said and then there was a quote from Dawn, Iner. Is that how you pronounce it? Iner, I'm sorry. Where he said, "Oh no, I was for it. I was cool."
You know what?
Where did the friction come?
It wasn't that there was friction. I think it was that people didn't understand why I wanted to do it. Why I wanted to even have someone like rhyming on one of my records. They didn't understand.
Because they thought it would offend your audience or something?
They just didn't see why I felt the need to have that.
Right.
And it's like when you don't grow up with something, of course you don't understand it.
Right.
To them, it was a very new thing. Like, okay, this hip hop thing, this new thing, you know. And it's not. If you grow up with something, if you grow up, you know, listening and from the beginning of, basically, growing up with the first rap records and watching the evolution, and like loving like Eric B and Rakim and like all, Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick, and like all the records that were really like staples of my, high school, junior high school years. Like it's not a stretch for me. It doesn't seem like a stretch for me because that was the music I grew up listening to.
Right.
But to those guys, it was so drastic.
Right.
And I guess I didn't look at it as drastic because I was listening to ODB, Oh Baby I Like It Raw every day on the radio. I was when I'm on the remix. And Puffy was very hot, just on the remix side of things, on the production side of things at that point. He wasn't, Puff Daddy the rapper at that point. So I was really wanted to work with Puffy, do the remix. And when I met with him, at first he was like, oh no, I don't mess with that pop shit, blah, 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 blah. And then when I met with him and he heard the track and he was like, he got it where I was going, what I wanted to do. He's like, I can re-loop it. And he really did re-loop it. And I really think what he brought to that record took it to another level. Right. And so then I said I want to put ODB on it. I'm sorry.
That's fine. When do you sleep? What are your sleeping hours?
Well, I don't really have specific hours. If I did, I'd be happy if I could. I try to sleep.
There's this thing called melatonin,
Yeah, but it gives me weird dreams, and I have bizarre dreams to begin with.
Oh, really?
Did you read the Rolling Stone article?
I did, yeah.
What'd you think of it?
I thought it was good. I mean, I don't usually myself write things that are like that personal and that inside somebody's
She
handbag
spent
or
a
whatever.
lot of time with me.
Right, that's good.
And that's why I felt like that was like the first piece where somebody really kind of captured a lot of the essence of who I am. She saw me in a lot of different environments.
Right. Yeah, that came across. That was great.
I really like her writing.
Well, we're talking about hip hop and your sort of people's change of perceptions of you.
Right.
The editor of this magazine, of Arena, said that to him, you're one of the very, very few people he can think of that's actually cooler now than when they started. Most people start cool and then fall off, whereas you've just gone up and up.
Nice.
Do you sense that you're being allowed to be kind of...
You know what it is? When I first started out, I was just as influenced by all the stuff that I'm influenced by now. It's just that it wasn't really encouraged. Like, I mean, if you'll go back and you can listen to tracks from earlier albums, it's obvious that there's an urban influence on certain tracks, but they never really were released for the most part. Even like my demos, I had this one song on my first demo with Vision of Love on it called Hypnotized, which was a real just urban record. And it was very hip-hop-ish, whatever, and it didn't end up on the record. And there are so many songs that just would have been a better song to put on the record, but people didn't necessarily understand how to merge what their vision for me was with that. Which is why
Because people just want you to be one thing, right?
Right, and which I'm not in any way. I mean, racially, influence-wise, I'm not a one-dimensional person. And therefore, it's very difficult for a lot of people to understand that, especially people who aren't familiar with people who are of mixed race, because a lot of times people really don't look at me like that. And so they'll say offensive things in front of me, they'll just misunderstand the whole concept. Even if you say to them, oh, my father's black, and my father's African-American and Venezuelan, he's not a black Venezuelan. That always gets misconstrued.
Right, how does that work?
I guess you could call him a black Venezuelan, but it's not accurate. My father's mother was from the South, a black American from the South. Right. My father's father was from Venezuela. Right. So he's half and half.
Oh, right.
And my mother's all Irish. Right. Irish American.
Did you celebrate St. Patrick's Day?
I tried, but the people I was with, they just weren't into it. Like, I wore green.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but I'm festive, and nobody else wanted to get festive with me.
You gotta change up your friend.
No, but I was with someone who's half Irish, too.
All right.
But, they weren't sensing it, so whatever. My mom was listening to the Clancy Brothers, so I
really?
chose to her over the phone.
In the house?
No, I wasn't with her.
Oh, when you called her? All right.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about Halston, because there's also been the fashion, what seems like the fashion awakening or blooming or whatever. Right. Like every time you see, you've got the move, the thing. Like you were the first person to wear those Gucci
stilettos
in the
middle.
So so. Also, tell me this just on a smaller note.
Okay.
Who wrote the dialogue for the Honey video, little riff at the start?
It was okay. The dialogue or the whole?
The dialogue. Just kidnap thing.
Well, Eddie Griffin did his own part, basically. He ad-libbed.
Is he the black guy?
Yes.
Right.
He did. I mean, he did 4 different versions.
Right.
You know, we had to choose which one to use. But I basically came up with the concept of the gum.
Right.
And the breath thing.
Yep.
And we wanted somebody, like, this is the ironic thing. When everybody tried to say that it was about Tommy, nobody believes me that it wasn't. Nobody believes me. Even Nim, who wrote the Rolling Stone piece, didn't believe me. And it was not intentionally based on a Tommy-esque character. It really wasn't. We wanted like we actually called Chris Farley to be the head gangster. We really wanted somebody like that, like a known comedian.
Right.
To be, because I wanted it to be really funny. Because I'd never gotten a chance to show those sides of my
Your
personality.
jerky boy side.
Yeah, you know, you gotta do the jerky boys and stuff. But what happened was, you know, they weren't available, and Frank was great. But I mean, afterwards, after the fact, everyone made such a big deal out of it. But Sheila Gray, my acting coach, we've been working together for years. She speaks Spanish, so she said, "How about doing it in Spanish?" I was like, "Oh, great, okay." So I learned Spanish in 5 minutes, and here we go and do
So
it.
you didn't know any Spanish before?
No.
Oh, okay.
I've sung in Spanish, but I don't speak Spanish.
Well, just phonetically.
Yeah.
Stuff now.
So, and then I was in Puerto Rico when we did the video, so everybody around me was Spanish. So I'd mess up the line and be like, "Why?" The first time I'm speaking lines in there in Spanish, but it was fun.
Well, the other thing is we'll get back to Halston in a minute, but I also heard that your acting lessons, you're bringing up a lot of like childhood stuff. Is that right? How does that go, or what's happened?
Well, what she started, her whole method. I mean, I feel kind of uncomfortable describing what she does because she has her own description. I don't want to be,
Right.
you know.
I could always call her.
Yeah, you could call her, but she's out of the country right now.
Oh, right.
But I don't know when your deadline is. She's gone to some place where they only have one phone in a bar somewhere. She's on an island or something.
Okay.
But she's a very incredible person. She's really cool. But it's sort of based on mostly method, but you know, she has a lot of other ways that she works. But the whole relaxation process and the kind of when I first went to her, I was so tense and so uptight and so like this all the time. Like I always had to fight. I felt like I was always, and I still feel like that in a lot of ways. But like my shoulders were just up like this all the time, and I was just very, very tense.
Why? Because acting was unfamiliar to you?
No,
or?
because that was how my life was.
Oh.
And I mean, on top of doing all this kind of stuff, do you have any bread?
Yes.
Thank you.
Are you done? Can I take this?
Yes, thank you. It'll be all right.
So really nothing on the menu that you...
I can't eat. I have
because
my skin is sensitive to iodine.
Oh, okay.
I love seafood, but I'm gonna have me some shrimp later in a place that I like the shrimp better.
What would happen if you ate seafood and you get like a rash?
No, just I'd break out a little bit, and then if I do a photo shoot, the makeup guy would have to work a little harder covering up my pimple or something. But also my skin is very sensitive and stuff like that.
Can I take your napkin or?
No, it's okay. You can leave it. I'm fine, thanks. Oh, sorry. No, I used to, and then at that point also I had this thing. It's called dermatographism, and it's hypersensitivity to iodine. So you get affected from heat, from alcohol, from seafood, from salt, anything with, you know, that I guess increases the white blood cell something. I'm not an expert, but that's how it's been explained to me. And so at that point, when I first started going to her, and stress intensifies it too.
Right.
So
you were a stress puppy.
I was a complete stress fest, like every day. And it was the sort of thing where if you just touched my arm, I would get a red mark. You could write your name in my arm. Like I was that tense, uptight, stressed out, freaked out. And when I first started doing like just even the relaxation thing, it was a complete release of emotions that I mean, because I was always holding in or focusing on something else, never dealing with myself or my own issues, my own, emotional hang-ups, my own childhood crap, So when I first went to her, she said to me, create a place where you feel safe. It's part of the relaxation thing, where you feel safe. I don't know if you've ever studied acting or whatever, but part of it, there's this one thing where it's in the relaxation. It's kind of like a meditation thing, but I mean, I'm not a new age person at all, but this is part of the thing. Just think about a place in your life where you feel completely safe. You feel like nobody's going to mess with you. You feel like you're completely in control, and you feel at ease. And I had no place. And she said, you could even use something from your childhood. And I started trying to think back, and every place from my childhood had some sort of memory attached to it that made me sad.
Right.
So, and I didn't have anything present day that made me feel comfortable or in control or at ease.
Right.
So, just recreating things from my childhood, reliving stuff, not even dealing with the present day stuff at that point was very, very, it was like a huge release it was a very big emotional release, when you hold that much in all the time. Plus just being in the public eye, you have to watch what you say, what you wear, what you do. Then
how long ago was this?
This was last February. Yeah.
And do you feel that in some ways, I mean, you've been a pretty successful singer for 6 years now or something. Do you feel like at that age you took a track and went into a certain kind of life that cut you off from things, from comfort and security? I mean, happiness and all that. I mean, obviously you've got security.
Yeah, but you know what? I still don't feel. People might take this the wrong way, but I still don't feel financially secure, because anything can happen. I mean, not because you read 80 million records, you ain't got $80 million from 80 million records. You got to pay your managers, you have to pay your lawyers, you have to pay the record company makes most of the money.
Right.
And then you have all these people who suddenly have to work for you, and
right.
The more you have, the more you pay for it. Trust me, I realize that I'm fortunate that I have an enormity of money compared to most people.
Right.
But inside, I still feel like the rug could be pulled out from under me. I still feel, I don't feel secure, especially now with I have this big house and it's up for sale, and I paid for half of it, so it's
right.
like a big drain. It's kind of stuck.
Right.
I'm not living there,
right.
So it's not like I feel like I can buy another place.
I heard also that a co-op board turned you down at one point.
Mm-hmm. No, they didn't turn me down. They wouldn't meet me.
Because your show business?
There's an actor who lives in that building. That
Is it Uptown, Downtown?
It's Upper West Side, which I was surprised at because I thought they were a little more liberal over there.
Indeed.
But it doesn't matter because it probably wasn't meant to be anyway. So.
Well, are you at least a little happier than you were when you couldn't find a safe place in the acting?
Oh yeah. I mean, that was when I talk about stuff like this, about my childhood and things, it was never an issue with my mother. My mother was always very supportive of me. She was always very encouraging. I felt safe with her, but sometimes I would worry because she worked 3 jobs at one point, and she was an opera singer when I was very young, but then she didn't continue, she didn't pursue it. I think had she pursued it, she could have become she's very talented.
Right. What kind of productions was she in?
She sang with City Opera. She made her debut at Lincoln Center. She's really an amazing singer. She's a vocal coach too. Right. And she sang jazz. She used to bring me around her jazz musician friends when I was 3 and 4. And that's when I first started listening to music and stuff like that. And I would be in clubs singing when I was 10 with these jazz musicians and stuff like that. But thank you very much.
Can I get you anything, sir?
Hello, sir.
You want some bread?
I'll get you a knife.
Thanks. But thank you very much. But it's just that I have a unique family situation. situation, older brother and sister, and
But just in terms of in your adult life, do you feel that getting whatever freedom you've got now in the last year has been significant? Like, I'm looking for the answer.
Yes.
Yes, I'm in a slightly happier place.
Oh,
you sounded desperate there. It sounded like terrible.
I did when I told you the thing about the not having a safe place.
I mean, that's what
I don't feel the same way anymore.
Right.
At that point, I really did.
Right.